Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another video. I'm going to be doing a tutorial today on how I sculpt hairpieces for LEGO minifigures, so custom hairpieces. Here's just a few examples quickly. So yeah, this is the 5th Doctor. I sculpted this hairpiece for here. 10th Doctor, that's a sculpted hairpiece as well. Hank Pym from Ant-Man. That's a sculpted hairpiece. So these were done with either Procreate or green stuff. Here's just one more that I did. So the minifigure that I'm going to be making today is Sirius Black. That's the hair I'm making for him. So Sirius Black from Harry Potter. I have a reference image right here which shows off the hair quite well, so I'm going to be making some hair based off that. I'll be sculpting this out of Procreate and using a base, so I'll show you what materials I'm using. So I've just got a random minifigure body and a head for reference for the facial features and the eyes, because you don't want the hair to be too high up the hairline or too low down so it doesn't cover anything, and then a base hairpiece which I'm using. So I've just got this old Luke Skywalker hairpiece which I'm going to modify and sand down so I have a base to sculpt on. So looking back at the reference picture, we can see that Gary Oldman as Sirius Black, he's got a little bit of a receding hairline, but it's quite a long hairpiece, which is why I chose this kind of mid-length piece. So I'm going to remove these bangs from the hairpiece. I'm going to cut them off, and then it flanges out at the side, so I'm going to sand that down too, and then I'll get on to sculpting. I'm going to be using a knife to just cut these off. Fairly simple, we just need some basic safety, so that just cuts right through there. And you don't have to use this hairpiece as a base for whatever you're sculpting. You can use any hairpiece you want. I like to use these hairpieces are good too, because you can sand them down, and I have a lot of them. They're not really valuable or anything, so I use that for a lot of my sculpted hairpieces, but because I'm doing a longer one today, it will have to be a longer base. And it doesn't matter if you're overcut because you're going to be sculpting onto it anyway. So I'll need to use some sandpaper. This is, let's see, what is it? P180 sandpaper, which I will use to sand down the sides of the hair and also on the inside a little bit. So this is the product of just a tiny bit of sanding on the bottom, all around there, and removing some of that. So you just want to kind of refine the hairpiece to as little as you can while still maintaining the shape that you kind of want. So that's what it looks like so far. I think I might remove a little bit more from the top so I have some room for sculpting. So I'll just do that now. This is what we have now. It's pretty formless. There's very little texture left, but it doesn't matter because we're going to be making that with the actual sculpt. But the reason I always use a base hairpiece is so I can remove it from the head, obviously, if I'm going to be using it on a different figure or pulling it apart or painting more on the head. So yeah, I find it's best to just use a base for that. So for sculpting hairpieces, I use either green stuff or Procreate, and they're both two-part kneadable sculpting materials. The Procreate takes about 3 to 6 hours to fully harden, and it gets to the consistency of plastic or rubber. It's a little bit flexible when it dries, but yeah, I use that. I got this just off eBay, but you can get it at hobby stores as well. they'll sell it. It's not extremely cheap, but it works well and it's worth it. So yeah, I'm just going to be taking a small portion from each of these. So you want an even amount for each, generally. So there's black, and then grey, and then just knead them together, and it really helps if you use water. So I've just got some water over there, it's a little dirty, but knead it together until there's no kind of separation between the colours and they are just one. Okay, so now we have a fairly consistent looking chunk. You have to keep wetting your fingers when you're using this stuff. So I'm just covering the hairpiece with this at the moment. I'm kind of putting it where his hairline is. It's not centered, but it's just a bit to the right. What's best for this is either toothpicks. Don't use a knife. Don't use that for putting lines in that, because if you want, so something that's like a Lego hairpiece, they don't have really sharp and fine lines engraved in the hair. They have kind of dulled, basic shaping. Another tool that I use for this is this metal thing that was just in a knife pack. But this is really good because it's not sharp, it's fairly rounded at the end. You can't see too well, but I'm going to be using that as well, possibly. So I've just dipped the toothpick in some water, and I'll smooth this out first so there's no fingerprints on there, but I'll just bring that down a bit so there is no separation from the actual plastic. It's a little bit thick still, so I'm going to just push it down a bit more and get it out of his face. You just got to keep shaping it because you don't want the hairpiece to look too big, which can happen when you're sculpting on top of another hairpiece. And as you can see, I'm not really using the tip of the toothpick, but more the side, because you just want kind of in-depth. Now I'm going to actually just remove some, because it was a little bit much. So unfortunately I had to leave the house while I was sculpting this, so I didn't really get to finish shaping it up, and when I came back it's completely hardened and the rest of the clay that I had spare had dried up, so that's a shame. Bit of a waste, but yeah, so it's removable. Basically I just chucked some clay on and I dragged it through the hair to kind of get the lines, and just followed the reference picture for where the hair comes from and everything. So yeah, it's not perfect, I may redo it. I don't know how it will look when it's painted, but that's kind of the general idea. Okay, so I just quickly painted it with some brown and it doesn't look too bad. I think this is a fairly good representation of kind of how I make hairpieces. And yeah, hope this will help some of you out. So good luck for any of you who try to make a hairpiece. It is a